Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Disney World Q&A. This is the series in which you all give me questions regarding all things, all manner of Disney, and I answer them to the best of my ability while we walk around here on MC Magic, which is a 1-to-1 scale recreation of Walt Disney World here in Minecraft. I've got a bunch of people with me. We're at Hollywood Studios. Let's just jump right in. Uh-oh, somebody's hungry. So our first question this week comes from Jack Young, who asks, this is a really good question. If you could replace the Sorcerer's Hat, what would you make it? Thanks. Of course, Jack is talking about the Sorcerer's Hat here at Hollywood Studios, and I believe in the last episode I went on like a mini rant about how I'm not a big fan of the hat. So what would I replace it with? It's time for me to put up or shut up, huh? I guess if I had to replace it with something, the whole idea and the reason I don't like the hat is because it's about Disney movies and not movies in general, which is what I feel like the park's supposed to be about. So I think you could do another sort of giant statue. It could be a film reel. It could be one of those director slates. It could be even like something like an Oscar. You know, that was a big symbol in film. It still is a big symbol in film. So maybe you could do something like that. I'm a big fan of like something big. Otherwise, if you're going to do like a famous building for the world of film, then, you know, the Grauman's Chinese Theater is the obvious choice, and that's already there. So, but in the interest of not wanting to just say go back to the old thing, I would say something like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of, I think a giant film reel would be really cool. And then you could have different stills from different famous films on the different slides of film. That would be kind of cool. I don't know how feasible that would be, but that would be kind of cool. So there you go. That's what I would put instead of the hat. Our next question this week comes from Cameron Benway, who asks, hey Rob, I have a question. Do you ever think that Disney Afternoon characters will get a spot in Disney Infinity? This is a question that I am so happy to answer, but also really so sad to answer. Of course, I don't know anything. I'm a Disney fan like all of you, so I have no inside information. That said, if I had to make an educated guess, I would say no, you're probably not going to. The reason I'm happy to answer the question is because I'm like happy to talk about anything Disney Infinity related. I think it's a really cool game. I think it's a cool platform. I think it's got room for a lot of growth, but I don't think it's growing at the speed that would sort of allow for those sort of characters to pop up into it. You know, I thought when it was first announced that we would see tons and tons of figurines, and you know, there were, you know, these little plastic figurines, it could just pump them out and do molds for everybody. But it seems like they're being a little more selective with it, because on the other hand, they have to code that as a character in the game who's got, you know, their own features and gameplay elements. So I guess they can't really just spit them all out there. And if that's the case, then I think what that means is they're going to stick to the more popular characters. I would love to see some lesser known characters out there. Definitely, I think it would be cool to give them that sort of spotlight they deserve, and also to just sort of bring that awareness to people who might not know who these characters are. But from a business perspective, I just don't see it happening anytime soon. Our next question comes from Jordan Mann, regular submitter. Jordan Mann asks, did you hear they're doing a Frozen 2 but in book form? Do you think this is a good idea? I'm against it because you can't put great songs in a book. So yeah, it was recently announced that they're going to be doing a sequel to Frozen, or a continuation of Frozen, and it is going to be a chapter book. But they said that does not rule out the possibility of future Frozen films. This is just what the next step in the series is. Now here's the thing. I thought about this, and at first I didn't really have feelings either way. I liked Frozen, but not enough that like I would jump onto any sequel. But I'm actually really happy with this decision, and hear me out. This is my logic. You're right, you can't put great songs in a book, and certainly a big part of what made Frozen popular was the music. But I think what's more important to consider is that Frozen is extremely popular right now. It is a force to be reckoned with, and its popularity is for everybody among ages, you know, young ages and older ages. And I think literacy is important, not just, you know, in the US, but anywhere in the world. And getting kids to read and getting people to read in general is just a very important thing to do. And so I think the idea of taking one of the most popular franchises, they could have just pumped out another movie, right? And just, you know, cash that check. But to take that and instead say, no, we're going to make it a book, hopefully a well-written book, hopefully a book that can get them to get people to read, is a noble effort. And so I can totally support that. And then beyond that, if it does really well, then there's nothing telling Disney that they can't just make a movie version of the book and then add in the music. So it's like their option's still there, but I think introducing it as a book is a great idea, because it will get a lot of kids out there to read. They're going to be kids who probably wouldn't have been reading, you know, these chapter books, who are going to pick it up just because it's Frozen. So I actually applaud Disney for sort of doing something like this. Now, maybe that wasn't their true intention. Maybe they weren't planning on getting kids to read, and their intention was, you know, some studies showed that it'll be more profitable. But, you know, whether they intended it or not, if the side effect is to get more kids to read, I'm all for it. Our next question comes from AJ Acosta, who asks, Rob, if Star Wars Land is actually being built, what Star Wars rides, restaurants, etc. do you think they will add? This is a tough question. Like I said, I'm not a Disney person. I don't work for them or know anybody who's like on the inside. So my guess is as good as yours. I would love to see a Star Wars Cantina restaurant or fast food restaurant, which I've seen in the comments. I think that's a total no-brainer. I think what you're really going to see is a healthy balance between classic Star Wars and new Star Wars. And of course, by classic Star Wars, I mean the original trilogy. Probably not a lot of prequel trilogy mentions there. What else can you see? I could totally see a ride based on the Death Star trench run, although you kind of have that in Star Tours, so maybe not. I think that's a tough thing. Star Tours covers a lot of bases in the Disney world, in the Star Wars world, so it'll be tough to see what they can do that's totally original. I mean, as for the stuff that'll be based on Episode 7, it's anybody's guess, right? Only JJ and the crew there and the people at Disney really know what's going to be in that movie. But I do think you'll see a lot of different stuff. I would love to see a show. You know, they might put a attraction where Indiana Jones was, and that would be fine. But it would also be cool to see like a Star Wars based show with some like really cool choreographed lightsaber battles and stuff like that. John Williams music blaring. That'd be really awesome. I want to know from you guys this week, what do you want to see in a Star Wars land? What attractions or restaurants? Restaurants would be cool. I'd like to see like a more fancy restaurant based off of Naboo, which is like one of the few parts of the prequels that I really loved, was just Naboo as a planet and the music and the architecture and everything about it. Well, not everything about it, not the Gungans, sorry. Our next question comes from the Emerald Sword, who asks, Hey Rob, what do you think about the rides not working for the past few days on the MC Magic server? Personally, I'm very annoyed. You have to be understanding, what had happened was Ant Venom made a video featuring MC Magic, and Ant Venom's got a lot of followers, and a lot of people view those videos, so a lot of people were visiting the server, and when you have all those people on, the rides get really laggy and they don't perform as well. Now, the good news is they've sort of come up with a solution, which is they've split off the Magic Kingdom and I think even Epcot into their own servers. So now, like, by splitting them all off, sort of in the way you join Creative or Arcade, it reduces the lag a lot. And I was there to help test MK when they first split it off, and it was super lag free, and that was really awesome. But here's the thing, if you're a regular on MC Magic, you should consider donating to them, because you have to understand, you know, all these servers, all of this back end is not free, and so it is partially on us to help provide a lag-free experience, because at the end of the day, you know, this money's coming out of a few individuals' pockets, and the more we could help alleviate that, the better we can have the server running. So it's the double-edged sword of success is what I call it. You know, getting a lot of people on the server is great to spread the news, but it also lags it a bit. Our next question comes from Austin Gill, who asks, Rob, since Disney World is tearing down Indiana Jones and American Idol to expand Star Wars lands, what are your likes and dislikes about it? I don't know why I put this here if the other Star Wars question was there, but I do have an answer, which is to say my likes are that I love Star Wars and there will be Star Wars content. My dislikes are there are no dislikes. I guess my only dislike is I might accidentally go to Disney at a point where all these attractions are closed and it'll be there'll be less for me to do when I'm there. But I am a big fan of change in the parks. I'm a big fan of evolution in the parks, and so I have no problems with taking an attraction away and putting something new there. I think that's sort of what Walt wanted. He wanted a park that would always evolve and always change, and the idea that they're still doing that's really great. Our next question comes from Gimli the Great, who asks, "Hey Rob, I was wondering, what are the best restaurants to eat out in while in the parks?" Interesting question, right? It's a big personal opinion sort of thing. I think if you ask certain people, you'll get certain answers. If you ask people who are into the more sophisticated dining experience, you might get a Brown Derby or a Le Cellier's Steakhouse or most of the places in Epcot. Me personally, I'm a fan of theming. I feel a little spoiled. I live in New York City. I grew up here. There are plenty of opportunities for me on a regular basis to find places that have some really fine dining experiences. So for me, what really appeals to me at Disney are these heavily themed areas, which you don't see a lot of outside of theme parks. So for me, it'll be a 50s sci-fi drive-in, or it'll be Cosmic Rays Starlight Cafe, the fast food restaurant in Magic Kingdom, is one of my favorite places to eat, even though the food's totally I don't want to say bland. It's normal food. It's burgers and fries and stuff like that, but I love the 50s googie style of architecture. I love the sort of corny lounge, Astro Lounge theming behind it. That's the sort of stuff that really appeals to me. So it's always going to be things like that. Over here, wow, I'm totally blanking. 50s Primetime Cafe, also a great one, because not only is the restaurant themed, but even the waiters and waitresses are in character, which is really cool. So places like those are the ones that I'm always going to be more prone to going to. Much to my friends' dismay, I always get eye rolls because I always have these go-tos, and they're always looking for a nicer dining experience. But too bad. I love the crazy theming of some of these places. I guess a good middle ground would be the Be Our Guest, right? That's supposed to be some pretty good food, and it's also supposed to be some really nice, elegant theming. Anyway, next question comes from Andrew M., who says, "Hey Rob, I was wondering what you think of a Tower of Terror movie. How would you like it done? And would you like emphasis on the Twilight Zone aspect of the film? Thanks and have a magical day." Well, thank you and have a magical day as well. This is an interesting question. I was thinking about this one. I would not like to see any emphasis on Twilight Zone aspect. In fact, I would like to see it removed completely. If we're going to do a movie, then you got to remove it completely. And the reason for this is that it will never be done. There will be no justice done to any sort of Twilight Zone fan service. Rod Serling was a genius. He has sadly passed long ago, and with that, I think the Twilight Zone should as well. I feel like every time they've tried to reboot or bring back the Twilight Zone, it's always been a mess. It has never been that great. And I think the only reason it's passable with the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is because they actually took footage of Rod Serling and sort of cut that all together and made that work. So I think by that kept it as real as possible. I don't think they'd be able to do that on the scale of a movie. What I would love to see with a Tower of Terror movie is a emphasis on the noir aspects of the whole thing. Make it more like a film noir, like a classic film noir. Still make it keep the same plot, the people go missing. It could be Twilight Zone in spirit, I guess, in that sense, but no references to Twilight Zone or, the whole, Twilight Zone speech or Rod Serling impersonators. Just make it this weird ghost mystery that takes place in a noirish 1940s Hollywood. I think that'd be great. Do it all black and white. I'm a big fan of using these tools to make movies that sort of teach younger generations about film genres and film styles that they wouldn't normally see anymore. You're not going to see a nice classic film noir. So as long as I am director for the day, that's exactly what I'm going to bring back. Our next question comes from Are You Keep Chopping Online. Hey Rob, you said in an earlier video that they were making a new clip for Soarin'. What do you want to see in this new video? Thanks and have a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious week. Yeah, so there were rumors that they were filming with the helicopter for a new Soarin', revamp. And I guess if the question is what would I like to see, I don't want to see specific regions. I want us to get higher up there. You know, I think the coolest thing about this ride is that it makes you feel like you're flying around. And flying at these low altitudes is something I can do in an airplane or a hang glider or all these things, a helicopter. I want to see the Earth from a perspective that I know I will probably not get to see in my lifetime or, you know, in a while. So I would like to see something more based on like low Earth orbit, something in space. I would love to see the world from that view on that screen. I think it would be gorgeous and beautiful. It would probably be super expensive to produce, but I think it would also be really cool. And then if you want to do more regional Sorens, put them in like the country pavilions. Next question comes from Lynn Ashley Ward, who asks, do you think Disney will bring back the Timekeeper in honor of Robin Williams like they did for Michael Jackson with Captain EO? So, of course, sadly, Robin Williams has passed away, and he was a character in this attraction from the 90s called The Timekeeper, which is about a robot that makes a time machine. Rhea Perlman's in it. It's one of my favorite rides from Tomorrowland. It's not really a ride, it's a show, a 360-degree show. I don't think they're going to bring it back for a couple of reasons. One, Stitch is in that place now, or is it Monsters, Inc.? I always mix those two up because they're always right across from each other. But in any case, what's there is sort of popular. I think if you look at Captain EO, there wasn't... I think Honey, I Shrunk the Audience was there before they brought back EO, and that was sort of fading into obscurity. So it was good timing to replace it anyway. Whereas here, I think they're not looking to get rid of Stitch or Monsters, Inc., whichever one it is. I can't believe I always forget which those two are. I personally wouldn't want to see it because I think it's sort of like a tasteless cash-in. I thought of the same thing when they brought back EO for Michael Jackson's death. And then the last reason, and I hate to say it or phrase it this way, because personally I am more of a fan of Robin Williams than I was of Michael Jackson, but I don't think Robin Williams in the bigger picture was as much of a star as Michael Jackson. You have to understand, in the US is probably a pretty even bout. You know, the Robin Williams, he had such a big place in the world of entertainment and pop culture for so many decades. But on a global scale, Michael Jackson was like insanely, like, it was almost like nothing. It was like up there with Elvis Presley, you know, like, and again, I say this as someone who's not like a huge Michael Jackson fan, but I could step back and acknowledge that he was like a global superstar. So I think the Disney executives, if push came to shove, would admit that, you know, Michael Jackson, bringing back a Michael Jackson thing would probably have a lot more pull than if it was Robin Williams. But I wouldn't want to see that. I mean, I would love to see Disney do some sort of tribute for Robin Williams in the parks, maybe. It's interesting. He was a big World of Warcraft player, so Blizzard's actually adding an NPC of a genie, I believe, into their new expansion. So I like these like little tributes to honor him, but I think bringing back that whole attraction would not be the right way to do it. And on top of that, that's kind of a lot of work to do. You know, it's a big switch. The Timekeeper was, you know, you had the animatronics, first of all, you'd have to redo, and the film would probably look very aged, and not even like in a retro thing, but sort of in a, I don't know. I think 90s is just not retro enough for it, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. And then lastly this week, our last question. But first, before I get to it, I would just like to say thank you everybody for watching. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, just leave it in the comments below. I'll try to get to them as much as possible. There haven't been a lot of history questions, which sort of, I'd love to see the history. Those ones are my favorite, or like the business-based questions where, you know, we get to play what if and think about how you know, Disney worked as a business. Those are my favorite. But you can leave them in the comments below. I'm at Rob Plays on Twitter. I'm Rob Plays That Game on Facebook and Instagram. Anyway, our last question comes from Madison, Washington. This is still a cool name. Hey Rob, the Haunted Mansion in Disney World has the interactive waiting area, but Disneyland doesn't. Do you think that Disneyland might get it soon? And do you think the Haunted Mansion in Disney World would get more expansions? Do you think that Disneyland 1 is staying classic? Thanks and have a magical day. Certainly space is a problem in Disneyland. They don't have the luxury of space that Disney World does. They could always expand Magic Kingdom if they really wanted to. Not that I think that'll be the case, but on their topic of interactive queues, again, I don't work for Disney. I don't know what's coming where or when, but here's what I will say. I have never, ever yet at this point heard any negative feedback regarding interactive queues. It has only ever been positive or at worst neutral. And I think Disney realizes that, and I think that means you're going to see more and more interactive queues, to the point where I can imagine a day where every attraction has an interactive queue. The real question is on what time scale, which queues will get them first, and I think that's something that'll be really hard to guess, because I think a lot of logistics go into figuring that out. So I would bet money that the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland will see an interactive queue. When? This year? Next year? 10 years from now? I have no idea. But I think you will see them eventually, because I do think they've been a big success. Anyway, thank you all again for watching, and thank you all here on the servers. Again, if you follow me on Twitter, I usually mention when I'm going to be filming these, so that's how this little crew is following me around. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great week. Whatever you're doing, make the most of it, because it makes it so much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of the Walt Disney Q&A. Bye, everybody. I just changed the name again. I do that every week. Something Disney Q&A. I guess that's what we call it. Bye, guys.